Hi, everyone, and welcome to our online training series. Today, we're going to be talking about screencasting and how we can use screencasting to support students with disabilities in general education classrooms. My name is Laura Clark, and I am with NKCES. Thrilled to be learning with you today. So when we're talking about screencasting, the goal of today's presentation is to talk about what screencasting is, what tools we can use, and we're going to focus on the free ones, and then how screencasting can benefit students. We're going to look at that Universal Design for Learning, or UDL perspective, and we're going to do some quick previewing of how we can screencast both in Google Chrome world and outside of Google. So let's dig in. When you're thinking about what you should screencast to support students with disabilities in general education classrooms, the first big rock that I always think of is that critical content that students would need to know and probably preview before you get into the classroom and lesson. It's also a great idea to think about review, where students might need to go back over the content again that they didn't master in class. And that's kind of the biggest rock that we've got. When we think about critical content and our ability to teach it, I usually run by the rule of I've only got one time that I can teach this to the whole class. But many students, above and beyond those students with disabilities, including students who are English learners, students who might have ADHD or are distracted in learning but don't have a diagnosed disability, students who are absent for the day, or students who are just for whatever reason having trouble focusing and attending on the lesson of the day, they might need that content reviewed, but I've got to keep moving forward. So for all of those student groups, it's really important that we have those critical main ideas captured so that students can go over them again to check themselves for accuracy and understanding. We can also screencast any process-oriented task. If we're giving students a multi-step assignment where they need to do A before B, then C, then it's really great to screencast that so students can stop the video at different points of instruction and review what they've learned or accomplish that first task, then start the video again. I use screencasting a ton for directions of assignments and to build exemplars that students can see, where I can walk through my thinking process in addition to my actual work for an assignment. It's also great to screencast things like class behavioral expectations so that students can review those frequently, and they can also share them with family and friends to review what's expected of me at any given situation or with any given teacher. So there are some excellent free options when we're talking about screencasting. And a few of you are probably wondering, so what is the exact definition of screencasting? It's kind of a newer tool that's come up in the last few years of teaching. And a quick definition from techtarget.com is that screencasting is simply a digital video recording that captures actions taking place on a computer display. It can be a very targeted display like you're seeing right now with my Google Slides, but you can also show an entire screen and display everything that is there for students to see. And I'm going to link into a sample video I'm going to make where I show the entire screen. There's usually some kind of voiceover narration, and it's super useful for demonstrating the how-tos of any kind of learning. On the screen, you will see two different free sources that I use a lot. The one on the left is Screencast-O-Matic, and the one on the right is Screencastify. Both of these are integrated into the Google Chrome world, and both have free applications that we can use to support our students. I am not using a free version right now. I'm using a paid version of Screencast-O-Matic, and we'll talk about the differences between the paid versions and unpaid versions in a bit. So when is screencasting beneficial? Well, I think of three big rocks. The first being content, and we talked a little bit about that. When I'm giving new information that I want students to be able to preview and review, when I'm giving directions and class rules and procedures, those are great times to use screencasting. I can also use them for processes like how to complete a very specific assignment, or how to use a new program. Maybe in our class, we've just started building our own Kahoots. So we want to use screencasting to let students know the steps for that. Or maybe how they should do a task that has multiple steps. The other really great way I can use screencasting is for feedback. If I've got an assignment that students completed and I wanted to give them some really detailed feedback, I can screencast that feedback. I can also break down multiple steps of feedback for students so that they can see really specific things they need to do as the next step in an assignment. And as we mentioned earlier, it is a fantastic way to share information with parents, whether we are showing parents the way that they need to solve two-digit math problems using a specific process, or what's meant by a specific form of writing, but letting parents have that exact same knowledge so that they can support work at home. If you want to learn from the best, or my favorites, there are multiple great technology teaching sites out there that you can dive into to learn more. We've got Alice Keeler's website there on the left, and she does a ton with Google Classroom, Google Drive, and ways we can dive into learning. And then on the right, we've got Matt Miller and Ditch That Textbook. Both Alice and Matt do a phenomenal job of diving into using tech, and we're going to talk a little bit more about the two of them when we talk about Screencastify options in a moment. So in addition to Matt Miller and Alice Keeler, and if you're in the slide deck, you'll notice that if you click on either one of the pictures here, they are hyperlinked to Matt and Alice's website. I've also linked in all the resources I've used in the notes, which are included. Another site that I love is Kathy Schrock. She has her Guide to Everything. If you're looking at building in a screencasting assignment or any technology assignment, Kathy Schrock's website has lots of sample rubrics and information. One of the main reasons I go to Kathy's website is to look at her sections on intellectual property to really make sure that what I'm teaching and doing in the classroom meets all the requirements for protecting intellectual property and copyright rules and doesn't move into plagiarism. If you're looking for a place where you can go to pull in free graphics that are able to be used for our work in schools, Creative Commons is a fantastic website where you can find free access to images, music, and others. Using the Use and Remix button here, you can access those videos and images and pull those into your presentations. You want to make sure that your work that you are building and sharing meets all those intellectual property rights. All right, so let's dig a little deeper and chat about ways we can really support our own personal learning and our growth. If you are looking to learn more above and beyond the websites we've already talked about, I follow Screencastify on my Twitter feed, along with a lot of other resources like Matt Miller and Alice Keeler, and really try and dig into my learning that way. So a great place to start your learning adventure and to kind of keep that learning fresh every day is to follow those guys on Twitter and check out their feeds. They post daily, so it's really easy to keep up with the latest and greatest trends. Both Screencastify and Screencast-O-Matic have YouTube channels. There are tons of great videos that they've published that talk about ways you can use screencasting to support student learning. They've got examples of all the different ways we can screencast in their YouTube channel, so a great place to dive in. I also really follow Kentucky Go Digital's work, and there are lots of different videos that talk about how you can use screencasting to support student learning. And also, if you watch the videos, they're using screencasting to make those videos. So it's good to kind of see behind the teacher mind, how those videos were created and what they do to really make that learning experience feel personal. So we've got some great resources now and some ways that you can continue your learning. But there's a few other ways that I like to think about the benefits of screencasting and my own personal journey in using screencasting. And the first one is I tell myself all the time, it's okay to make mistakes in your screencasting. You don't have to spend 15 days memorizing a script. There's no lighting and makeup other than what you do for yourself. You don't ever have to show your face if you don't want to, although students and others definitely enjoy seeing our faces as part of the learning experience. But if you make a mistake in what you're saying, just go back and replace it. I consider screencasting to be a lot like having a conversation with people. There should be a natural flow to it. But if you mistake a word or say something funny, you're welcome to start over and re-record. But I also just keep going. Most students are so thankful to have the information that they will totally excuse if you cough several times or say the wrong word or stumble over your words. Just keep going. It's all good to go. I really love screencasting because it is so easy to be able to share out with families and students, and especially if you're using screencasting as part of the Google Chrome world, we get instant links that we can automatically share. So a lot of times in class while I'm teaching, especially if I'm getting ready to talk about a big process or an assignment that's coming up, I'll go ahead and click the button to start my screen recording, record those directions in the moment, and then I have an automatic link that I can share with students so that if they need to refresh any of the things that I've said, they've missed part of it, then they can do that without having to ask me to repeat directions. Screencasting really does not take a lot of time, and the most time that is taken is if we record really long videos and have to wait for them to upload. But even that is a really minimal amount of time compared to the benefits of being able to share this information with students. The one thing about screencasting that I think is super important is that it needs to be authentic. Students and others that are connecting with you need to feel like this is the real you. I'm not some fake personality that isn't approachable and connectable. So don't be afraid to be yourself. Tell the same jokes you tell in class and really make them a personal experience for your students and their learning. So one of the things that slow people down sometimes is wondering about where you get the content for your slides. So I use any academic content that I've built that I'm going to share with my class, but sometimes I want to build something new and wonderful and lovely. And if you're looking for a place where you can go to find beautiful and lovely slides, I've linked 4 different resources in the notes here, but 2 of my favorite I captured here on the slides. Slides Carnival and Slides Go have excellent slide decks just full of ideas of ways you can lay out content. I use Slides Go as the backdrop for this presentation, and it gave me tons of options that I could use to make sure that this presentation hopefully was interactive and gave you some great ideas. I am going to capture this presentation as a separate link, and then I am going to start a second recording where I'm going to walk you through the process of screen recording from scratch and building a presentation. But I thank you very much for joining us in this quick dive into the screencasting world, and hope you enjoy the next video just as much as I'm sure you loved this one. Happy learning today.